So we're going to look at the next stage now. By now you should have secured your neck in, and that should be about 1 centimetre. Sorry, 1 cent. It should be about an inch. Yeah, mine's roughly an inch. And you can decide how you want her to be in. So this is my cup. And what I'd quite like to do with my cup, I'd like her to look like she's peering over a little bit, but you can have her so she's sat up straight. So if you wanted to be really straight, just move the camera up a little bit. There you go. So if you wanted to be sat up straight like that, all you need to do is just make sure with the felting that's quite firm around there, and then a head will stay up. Okay, now all these little bits that you've got left now, you can just felt them close to the neck, but I want you to see this nice shape you've got, like a shoulder shape. I just want you to keep that, but you can just go around now and felt those pieces in and make that quite firm. The other thing you can do as well is felt the bottom, so that's quite firm as well. Okay, so if you do that, then I'll show you how to do the arms and some ideas for with this a little like pop over dress, or equally you could do like a little pop over jacket. Okay, but this is going to have a little dress. So if you just carry on poking the felt and make sure that this part's quite firm. Okay, I'll be back shortly. So you should have something that resembles this kind of shape now, that when you put into your cup, it fits snugly. This is a standard size teacup. I do have smaller ones. So if you do opt to make a smaller one, just have all the wool quantities and you should be there or thereabouts with that. So with the neck, it should be that you can move it. So it's not like stiffly stuck, but it's not overly wobbly. So it just means that I can still move this. So wherever I decide, like I mentioned earlier, if I want to kind of looking over the teacup, I can felt at the back to hold her in place like that, or equally, I can have her like that and just tip the body over the teacup. So there are a couple of options that you've got for that. But this is your basic shape that you should have. So she's quite firm. You can continue to felt the bottom, because you've got a couple of options here. If you're having a little tea party and you'd like to do these as a gift, but you don't necessarily want to give your best china away, these are, you can pick odd bits and bobs of china up at charity shops. So you'll have an option of, you can put some glue in and you can stick them in. You don't actually need to put glue in if you don't want. If you want to give somebody a lovely teacup, and you can just sit it in. But equally, if you wanted this maybe as a table arrangement, once you've dressed your hare or your rabbit, whatever you've decided, you can pop them in and put little names on for table settings. So I'll show you with some little wooden labels I had when we do the finishing at the end. So that's an option. Now, if you are going to do that, and this is something to take home, I'll show you on here. This is flat. She's a bit wobbly, but that's because I can still felt underneath there. So if you continue to felt and make that really firm and flat, so it needs to be flat all across. So if you still have a little bit of a join underneath, just put some more wool over the top of that. And if you get that firm, she'll just stand. She'll stand. See, just with a little bit of rubbing there, that kind, pardon me, that kind of help. So so you could just take that home with them then. So they're just a couple of ideas. So we'll get making the arms, and we'll do the version that I'm going to do as a dress, but I'll show you a different option as well. So with the arms, I've got 2 pieces of chenille covered pipe cleaners. And what I'm going to do is add some core wool around there just initially. So just going to secure that end. I just want you to tightly just wind that core wool. Just wind it around as tightly as you can. And then just after each couple of rounds, just poke either side. Carry on, and a few more. Try and keep it even. Although at this stage you're going to be bulking it out, so don't worry too much. And just hold that into place. If you find it slipping, you poke it in place a bit sooner than I did then. Okay. So what you want to do is just leave, you're just leaving a couple of centimetres free at the end. Just cover that. Now, the reason I'm covering this in core wool is we're gonna put some wool bats over this, but I find that it gives me that little bit of a cushion for me to start felting on. You're gonna find if you just fold that over and felt that in place, it helps it not to slip when you're winding it. Now we're leaving a bit at the end here because we're going to attach it to the body. So don't forget to do that. It's not the end of the world if you do forget, but it'll glue into place a bit better. Okay. So a bit rough and ready that, but that's fine. Just go along. Now I'm turning and poking, but I'm making sure that I'm poking just close up to the wire. Okay. These chenille ones are a little bit more forgiving, I find, actually, than the normal pipe cleaners. Okay, that will do. So my choice is this Corriedale silver. And you'll find as well when you needle felt that you'll end up with bits and ends of the slithers. So on things like this, just try and use them up. So if you start on an angle at one end, bring that over and just felt it onto the other. Okay, and then we're just going to turn that just around once. And then that very end, I want you just to turn that over and squeeze it. And that will help later on. I mean, we are going to really cover these, so it's not like when you're doing, you know, for people, hands and feet. But I do find if you do that, you're already getting, we want a little bit of a paw shape, you're already getting that. So you just keep winding that. I find that if I start small like that and do it round, I actually end up with a really good shape to start with. Just gently poke. Remember, you've still got wire in there. You don't have enough yet to not break your needle. So you're just going to do around, okay? And turn it over and do the same. And I would say before you add any more felt, you see I'm gently rolling that and stabbing. Always make sure that you're all secure because otherwise you're adding wool. I know sometimes you kind of get a bit excited and you want to get it done, but if you do this bit of time at the beginning, just very gently, because there's still wire there, just poke that end, okay? And this is absolutely how I make my feet and my hands and do my ballet shoes and things. Okay, so another piece now. Again, I start at an angle and I just fold it over and felt it together. And you've got something there to start with. So I'm going to wind it. Don't worry too much about thicknesses and things because we can go on and add. You see, I'm just turning that at the end. And I'm going to felt that. You don't want to end up with a Frankenstein hair, so you need to think about proportions and things. And honestly, the best way of doing that is to get your hair up, and you can put the arm and just think, okay, is that a good size? And I'm there or thereabouts. I've not put an awful lot of wool on there, but I am there or thereabouts. I'll want to make this, if you imagine like the foot of a rabbit and the paw, I probably want to make that just a little bit bigger, but you know, we're doing okay. That's what's good about this make. There are lots of parts to it, but each of the parts come together quite quickly, with the exception of the head. But the heads on any make that you have has so much detail. Okay, so I'm going to do the same again. An angle, bring it over. And see how it's made it just a little bit easier with having that core wool underneath. We're just going to do the same and wind it round. Now, if you've got a longer piece, ladies, you're probably going to be able to go right to the end, but I'm trying to be frugal and use up my wool. Not my whole stash, because I think I'm going to be here for about 30 years felting. Can't resist buying wool. I get those little reminders that they've got wool sales on and I have to close my eyes. Okay. And just a little bit more then on the end. Again at an angle. So I stabbed myself then because I was trying to get that little bit of straw out. Okay. I'm still using 38. I find that they do help things to felt a lot easier. Okay. Come to the end there now. So literally what I'm going to do now is I've got a few lumps and bumps. I'm going to work on that. Now, if you've got some parts, like I've got it a bit lumpy here and a bit thinner there, you're literally just going to get some more wool and you're going to secure it. And you're going to wrap it round. And you're going to keep felting that until you've got an arm that's similar thickness. It doesn't have to be perfect, but similar thickness going along. And I just want you to bend it like a foot. So this bit would be a bit bigger. And all I'm going to do with that is I'm just going to add one more wrap around that, because then we'll be able to put a bit of detail on it. Okay, so literally I've just done one wrap and you'll do exactly the same. You just felt around. So I need you to make 2 of those. So if you want to do that, start off with your pipe cleaner, cover it over with the core wool, just one layer, leave a couple of centimetres at the end, start with your core wool, then add whatever your colour is. But if you start at the bottom there, you just turn in a little bit over just so that you get that nice, you'll get a lovely finish at the bottom then doing that. Okay, so I'll leave you to do that, and then join me again and we'll fix the arms and add the dress. So hopefully now you have two of the arms. So if you remember when we started doing these earlier, and I said just make the bottom just a bit bulkier, because you know if that was a rabbit standing, that's kind of how it would be. So all I've done here, I've just taken a tiny little piece of black wool and I've wound it in my fingers and I've laid it over the top and I've very gently felted it in and I've wrapped it underneath, and I've done the same. So you can make those as thick or as fine as you want. Now, just a word of caution, remember there is a wire there, so just do it. You just need to do it slow. You can put your needle at an angle and it will felt it in place. Okay. And I did say to you, we're looking for similar legs, not exactly the same. Exactly the same. If you get into that mindset with needle felting, will just take all the joy out of it. Because like I said on earlier workshops, you're not a machine. You know, that's the whole idea of made by hand. Okay. So these, I just have to do it facing, then I'll turn it around. These are going to go on a bit of an angle, because the idea of these then is that they're going to come through the dress and you've got the space at the front. Okay. So if that was there, it's going to be on an angle and come through the dress. So the idea is you can pose these how you want. You could, you know, even have it holding something if you wanted to. So I could use the awl that I have to create that hole in there, or I can use my old needle to create a hole in there. Now I'm going to show you a way if you don't have that. So you want to position the arm so the detail that you've done is at the front and this bit is going to go on a slant. Okay, so remember you have this bit, so you can fold that over because you're not going to be sticking that in. If you were using the awl, making a hole in that fibre, you need to make sure that fibre is quite firm. You will put the hole in, you would stick that in and you would hold it and it would be done. But remember, we want it about here where, you know, where there's a bit of a shoulder. So if you're going to attach this without that, I want you to get a bit of core wool and just wrap it where you've done the edge, just wrap it around there. I want you to hold that on. The reason I'm saying add that is it makes it easier to hold. And then literally you're getting your needle and you're felting that into place. Now, once you've done that bit, I want you to, take that out. So if that was going on here, I want you to catch the fell on either side. I want you to catch the fell in there. Now, if you're gluing it, I still want you to do that anyway. Just catch the fell that's running at the side, not too much, because you still want to be able to bend. You want to be able to move this bit that's naturally an elbow. So the top of the arm, that's what you're going to add. You're going to add that in there. Okay, so those are the options that you've got. You can create the hole with the awl, get your glue in, stick that in. I'd still get some core wool and felt over the top. You want this top bit of the arm to be quite firm so that when you do that, it's firm, but that still moves. And then this then can fit into the dress. Okay. So I'll leave you to do that, to add your two arms on there, and then we're going to add the dress and the final embellishments. Okay, so this stage now, you should have both arms on. You've either used the awl and glue, or you've just needle felted, adding a bit to cover the exposed pipe cleaner and felting either side of the arms. So it should now be like this. So you've got enough of a gap to add the dress and the arms that are free. So obviously they're bendable. You can continue in terms of the shaping, you know, feel free to, you can keep poking at each side and do that if you know, if you want to just make the felt a little bit tighter or firmer. I think it's quite easy to do when it's like that. Okay, but because these are in pipe cleaners now, you're going to be able to have those however you want them to. So we're almost there now. So we're going to add the dress. So whether you've decided to go with adding a felt dress like this one, or a coat even, if it's a male. See, now that the arms are on, it's a bit easier to explain. So I'd add that around there, and I'd feel for the arms here. So if I wanted that to be a long sleeve, which potentially I would if this was going to be a jacket, don't worry about that. You want to lie it down and just gradually use your needle just to felt to those points. So if you want to make a long sleeve jacket, you would just add, not as thick as this, but you would just add your wool and you would felt. So yeah, a word of caution. So when you add really big bits, this is the only time I would add a full, because I'm going to felt this. I'm going to felt it to here. Okay. So when you're adding the arms, just make sure that you add them in pieces like we did before, and wrap round and felt and wrap round, and just leave the hands at the bottom. Okay. So if I was doing this, that's exactly how I'd do it. I'd lay it out, I'd feel for where the arms are, feel for the shape. I'd look at the bottom. I've got too much felt there. I would take that away and I would felt that. So I'm using the shape of what I've got there. Now I know it doesn't look very much at the minute, but that's where, you know, adding after comes. So you would take, if you wanted to add a collar, and I do have I called him Mr. Blue Eyes. I do have a make on my Facebook page where I made a little jacket. I actually use wet felting technique for that I may actually do a little workshop on in the future. But if I was adding a front to this to give that moulding, so you'll needle felt all this in place, do the arms first. I would just felt this a little bit, and then I would roll it over and I would put it around, and I would bring it down, and then I would felt it in. So what that allows you to do then is, if you wanted to put a couple of little buttons, you could. If you wanted to put a different colour like white, so it looked like I had a little shirt on underneath, you can do that. If you wanted to do lace, so it looks like it's got a fancy shirt on. So it's possible to do that, to create, like I did with this angel, to create that panel going down, that then on this one I've sewn buttons over the top, and the same with the collar. I've created the collar doing exactly that same technique. And then you would turn it over. I would just say be careful with the head. Always have the head hanging over the mat. So see here where I've got the gap, I would just add the wool on there and felt as I go. So that's how you can just do a little coat. You could do this and do a dress. You could add lace to that if you wanted to do that, or you can add the ruffle that I'm going to show you how to make when I add the fabric to this. Okay, so we'll do that next. So I just take that off. Okay, get rid of the blue. So we're going to do that next, but you can see already fitting in the little cup, you know, so you can decide, am I going to have these arms coming round? Am I going to have it holding something? I've not finished the whiskers yet. Okay, if I'm going to have this looking down, are these arms going to kind of come round and over the cup? Because, as I mentioned earlier, these are bendable. So you can play around with the pose and do that however you want to do it. You might want to tuck the arms in and do it like that. Okay,